Did you know that the US dollars billions of people around the world crave are, in fact, nothing more than special pieces of paper with nice ink? And by themselves, they aren't worth very much at all? It sounds hard to believe, but this is the reality of the entire modern financial system. The value of the US dollar, the most powerful currency on Earth, doesn't come from the ink or the paper it's printed on, but from something invisible yet incredibly strong. Trust. Imagine holding a crisp $100 bill in your hand, the scent of fresh ink still lingering. The U.S. Bureau of Engraving and Printing produces it for just a few cents, less than the cost of a stick of chewing gum. Yet out there in the world, people are willing to give you goods, services, and even real gold in exchange for this piece of paper. Why? Because the U.S. government has declared this is legal tender, meaning you can use it to pay debts, buy goods, pay taxes, and anyone who refuses to accept it within the United States would be breaking the law. But the law is only part of the story. The rest, and more important, is the trust of millions of people that if they hold US dollars, they can exchange them for anything they need. What's interesting is that money didn't always work this way. In the past, paper currency was backed by real gold or silver. A $20 bill in those days was essentially a promise that you could walk into a bank and exchange it for gold of the same value printed on its face. That's called intrinsic value, value that comes from the material itself, not from a promise. But everything changed in 1971 when President Richard Nixon announced the end of converting dollars into gold. From that moment, the dollar became fiat money, and its value was based entirely on trust and the economic strength of the United States. So, what is intrinsic value? Picture it this way. Gold, even if you never use it as money, can still be turned into dazzling jewelry, used in electronics, or stored away as a safeguard. Gold has value in and of itself, even if no one uses it for transactions. The US dollar is different. If one day the world lost trust in the greenback, that $100 bill in your hand will be nothing more than a nicely printed piece of paper. You could fold it into a paper airplane, or use it to light a fire, but you wouldn't be able to buy a loaf of bread with it. That may sound far-fetched, but history has seen many monetary disasters unfold exactly like this. A famous example is Zimbabwe in 2008. When the government printed money excessively to cover deficits, inflation skyrocketed to insane levels, 79 billion% in just 1 month. The Zimbabwean dollar lost value by the hour, and a $100 trillion note, with dozens of zeros, could only buy a single loaf of bread. People abandoned their national currency and turned to the US dollar as a safe haven, believing it would hold its value. The trust in the US dollar was so strong that in many countries, even without being the official currency, it was still accepted in markets, restaurants, and even for paying salaries. The real strength of the US dollar doesn't lie in paper or ink, but in the size of the American economy, its military power, political influence, and the global belief that the United States will never let its currency collapse. But trust, no matter how solid, is not eternal. Some economists warn that if the US continues to pile up national debt and print more money to finance spending, the dollar's strength could gradually erode. In that case, the greenback would no longer be as untouchable as it is today. In reality, the dependence on trust makes fiat money far more fragile than gold. Gold cannot be printed at will, but dollars can. If you hold a quantity of gold, the world will always find ways to buy it from you, regardless of which currency is in circulation. But if you hold dollars and the world turns its back, all you'll have left is a green piece of paper in your hand, nothing more. This story shows that paper money in general, and the US dollar in particular, survives not because of intrinsic value, but thanks to a complex web of law, economics, and trust. Only when all three of these factors exist and remain stable can the dollar maintain its power. That's also why whenever the US economy stumbles, or the world fears political instability, gold prices tend to spike, because gold remains the final refuge when faith in paper currency falters. So next time you hold a $100 bill, ask yourself, what really makes this valuable? Not the paper, not the ink, but the fact that millions of people across the world agree that this is worth $100 and are willing to give you goods or services in return. It's an unspoken agreement, an economic miracle, and also the fragile thread that keeps the modern monetary system running. Because if one day that miracle vanishes, then no matter how many US dollars you have, they will just be silent green pieces of paper lying in your hand.